Kia ora tātou, welcome back. The next step in the sequence is to look at how to get a Mosquito, which is our broker set up. Now, Mosquito, it's part of a bigger, more complex process which requires Node-RED. Okay, so if I go back up to my little local IoT system model here, we're going to set up the Mosquito broker, we're going to set up Node-RED at this stage, and we won't do these things here quite yet, but we'll set this up and get it going. This is going to take quite a while. Okay, so actually the first thing we need to do is we need to set up Node-RED, and again we're going to use sudo dietpy software, and we're going to search for Node, and it's going to give us two applications. So let me just go to this F10, and I'm going to go to tab back up here to the dietpy software, and it's going to run, and I'm going to install. I'm going to do a bit of a search now, and I'm going to search for Node. Okay, and it's going to give me both applications. You can see these are highlighted because I've already installed them both. Okay, now what is Node? Okay, this is sort of a bit of an important sort of understanding. When you're looking at the client server model, often what's happening is that you're asking for some data, and that data comes back to your client here, and some of it is a program which is run, and it's run in a language called JavaScript. Now if you want to find out about, say for instance, an application like this, what is running in the background, you hit F12 and it'll come up with the developers tools. Okay, so I've got some developers tools here. That's normally what you get when you hit F12, something that looks like this, and what you can do is you can look at the HTML, you can get messages that have been sent on the console, messages from the software which comes in, and sources. And what this is going to do is it's going to look, and you'll be able to look at the CSS sources, and you can look at some of this JavaScript. Now JavaScript, these are little programs which are running. Here's a program written in JavaScript, which is typically how you see it. You can pretty print it, and what it'll do then is make it a bit easier to read. Okay, these functions are run in your browser. Okay, so that's what you need to know, is that JavaScript is run in your browser. Now, if you want to do some running of programs in your server, you need some sort of back-end language in your server. And one of those back-end languages is Node.js. And so that is JavaScript, which is running in the server. So you have JavaScript, which runs in your browser, and you have JavaScript, which can run in a server. And it's one of the server type applications that you can run. So we need to install that, and that's done through this installation process of Node.js. Node-RED is an application in your server that uses Node to run. Okay, so that's how Node-RED run. It's written in JavaScript, but the JavaScript that is running in Node on your server. So I've got this installed now. The next thing that I really is quite important is to configure a password for Node-RED so that no one else can log into your Node-RED configuration setup and play with it without knowing the password. Okay, so these two websites here will teach you about how to install Node-RED admin, which is another application you need, and when you've got that, you can actually configure Node-RED with a password. Okay, so this shows you how to do that. And when you've done that, you'll use sudo system control restart Node-RED to restart Node-RED again, and then you're ready to run. So I've got Node-RED running now. I've got, let's see, if I've got Node-RED running, it will be running on a particular port. Why don't I have a look and show you where that is? So I'm going to cancel out of this, exit. Okay, and I'm going to start sudo mc, and I'm going to look around to see whereabouts the Node-RED setups are. Okay, now normally you would expect to see this sort of stuff under etc, but it's not done for some reason. I don't know why it's not done there. It's not done under home, under my dietpy, which is another place you'd normally find this sort of setup, but it's actually done under mount mnt, and it's done under dietpy user data. So this is one of the things that the Diet Pie people have set up a little bit different. And under there you'll find Node Red. So under this you will find the settings file, F4 to go to the settings, and it will tell us all about Node Red. And the first thing you'll see is that Node Red is configured to run on port 1880. So what I need to do then, if I want to use Node Red, is I need to go to my browser and I need to type in 1880. Okay, now I've done that before, so it's just going to pop straight into it because I have set up a password and it's remembered it. Now to set up a password, you just go down this configuration file and you need to uncomment this area here about this. And when you've done this installation software here, and this tells you how to secure a password, you need to create a hash of your password. It'll explain it on that website, and paste it in here. Okay, and so my password is EE101, and this is the hash or the secure version of it. You can't unencrypt this, not very easily, to get EE101, that's for sure. And you need to uncomment these because these normally come commented out. So that's how you do this, where the setup files are for Node Red. And I'm going to look at this. I'm not going to start here with this test setup. I'm going to start with something really incredibly simple now that you've got Node Red set up. So we're going to start with something really simple. First thing we need to do is we need to be able to see a palette of nodes, which is on the left here. You can use this little arrow thingy here to hide that, and you can drag this and make it a bit bigger in there. You know, then you've got all of these nodes, and you just drag a node onto this. So I'm going to drag and inject a node on. You'll notice when I did this, it came up and highlighted deploy, which means I've made changes here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a debug node next to it, and then I'm going to connect them. I'm just going to hover over this and connect to there. Now you can do the connection in either direction. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we've got a timestamp injection into a debug node, and over here you're going to find that we've got another little pop out. If you can't see it, you can by popping it out, and here's the debug window. So at the moment there's nothing in the debug window. What I'm going to do is I'm going to inject a timestamp into the payload. Now I just click on that. It says I've got undeployed changes, so it won't work because I haven't deployed all the changes I've made. So I'm just going to deploy those changes now. Successfully deployed, right? And you'll notice that these are no longer got little blue dots on them. So I'm just going to do that, and hey, it has sent a local timestamp to the debug window. So now I know that Node Red is working. Okay, this is really important that you get this set up, just even something as simple as this working, and you can see, hey, it's working. Now if I click on this, you'll see that my timestamp can be put into normal time. At the moment it says it's 22:57. That means, you know, nearly 11 p.m. at night, but this is time zone Zulu. Now Z for Zulu, or it's also called UTC, Universal Time Coordinated, or Universal Coordinated Time, UTC, and it's also called GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, because the reference for time in the world is sent through Greenwich in London. Okay, now when I hover over this, you'll see that this highlights over here to say, because if you've got multiple debug nodes, you need to know which one sent the message. So I'm just going to click on this a couple of times. There it is in hex, but here it is, and I'm just going to copy this and go Control C, because this is the timestamp, and all time is recorded in terms of milliseconds on Unix. And I'm going to go to a website like this, which is the Epoch Converter, or Unix timestamp converter. I'm just going to paste it in there, and I'm going to put it into human date, and it's saying actually, hey, it's Thursday 23rd of July at 11 p.m, but actually in my time zone, which is GMT plus 12 in New Zealand, it's actually 11 a.m. on Friday the 24th of July. So this is a timestamp, and you can see the time on your Linux box. Your Raspberry Pi, I'll just exit this, F10, and you can see the time and date just by going date as a command, and it tells you what it is in New Zealand Standard Time. Now, the systems all work in GMT or UTC or Zulu time, okay? And then when you ask for a date, it's going to give you the local time. And this was, remember, we set this up when we did the initial setup of the Raspberry Pi to say which time zone we were in. So we're in Pacific Auckland, And the next thing you need to know is that, well, how did it actually get the right time? How does my Pi know what the right time is? Well, at the moment the Pi is connected to the internet and it's alive, it goes out to a time server and it gets the time and brings it back, and then it adjusts itself to know what the local standard time is, okay? So this is how time is configured. It's really important to understand a little bit about time on a Raspberry Pi. If we go back to our node read, we can actually change this. We don't need to send a timestamp. We can just send it a number like 4345, done. Okay, now the little blue dot says that I've got changes which I need to deploy, so I'm going to deploy those. And now when I click on this, it's just going to send my payload of 345. So the payload is the data that goes between these two things. Okay, so you can do all sorts of things with this. You can send in a number, a boolean, well, all sorts of classy stuff. Okay, we're not going to go into that at the moment, but that's what I want you to understand about node read, and just making sure that node read is configured. Okay. The next thing I want to do with node read is we need to set up the Mosquito browser. So we'll go back to our little sheet here, and to set up the Mosquito browser, again we're going to use diet-py software command, and we're going to search for Mosquito, and it's going to give you the Mosquito software, and you're going to set it up, and it's going to configure itself all nicely to run on your diet-py. The other thing I do want you to do though is we're going to look at how to use clients and the Mosquito client. So I need you to copy this, Control C, and right click on it, and then push enter, and it will install the Mosquito clients. Okay, it will ask you for permission once it's doing it, and because we're going to use that as part of our testing process. So now you've got the Mosquito software set up, it's running on Node-RED. If we go back to our little local IoT system, we've got Mosquito Broker now, we've got Node-RED, we've got the Nginx web server, and we've got Secure Shell running. So we've got all these things here running, and they're all communicating and able to be communicated with. Okay. So I'll just stop this video now, and we'll come back to actually playing with Node-RED a bit more in the next video. Cheers.